Hello, and welcome to another video and podcast from Prepared Foods. Today we're examining plant-based foods and sustainability, which are two of Prepared Foods' 6 power trend topics in 2022. Joining us today is Chef Spike Mendelsohn, whose career, spanning nearly 3 decades, can be described as amazingly diverse. From chef to restaurateur to television personality, food policy advocate, and consultant, Spike is a force to be reckoned with in the culinary world. Among his interests are Eat the Change, a plant-based packaged snacks company, and Plant Burger, a plant-based quick-serve restaurant chain with one freestanding unit in New York and many more inside Whole Foods grocery stores. For the record, Chef Spike will join Eat the Change co-founder Seth Goldman in an opening keynote presentation this September 13 at Prepared Foods New Products Conference in Philadelphia. So, Chef, it's a pleasure to welcome you, and thanks for the time and letting us get to know you a little bit.
Of course. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with just a few trends and then talk to you a little bit more about Eat the Change and your presentation. First, I simply wanted to talk about innovation, and it's something that, so our magazine and title goes to all those people in charge who touch product development at food and beverage manufacturers, including corporate chefs. And we're always writing about innovation for whatever that means. And I'm kind of curious to get your take on what that word means to you, what that term means to you, and what would be some examples that you'd point to.
Yeah, absolutely. So in particularly to Eat the Change, what's interesting about us is that we've set ourselves up with some guardrails on what innovation could be and for ourselves that really kind of link back to the ethos of the company, right? So we're, for now we promote whole foods, right? We like to deliver foods in what we say their native form, right? Mm-hmm. So on one hand, I think that's kind of innovative, just kind of going back to the way we used to do things, right? A little bit less process and sorts. Yeah. And then, so one of the other things that we love to do also is we love to talk about upcycling and using, what we deem, different varieties of crops. For instance, we eliminate the top 6 crops that are, responsible for about 57% of our food production, right? So we're talking about like wheat, soy, sugar, potatoes, rice, for instance. So we eliminate those. So at the get-go, we have to kind of innovate from that point on. And, there's also, especially being in CPG, you have to look at kind of what's out there, what consumers are eating. And for us, we lean on a little bit more of plant-based snacks, obviously, right? Whole foods, plant-based snacks. And then, and particularly to the 2 products that we really have, mushroom jerky, we look at the jerky section that, we a lot of consumers like that eating occasion, that snackification, snackification moment, right? And we try to transform that and deliver in a plant-based whole foods way with eliminating those 6 crops, right? So for us, I feel like that's pretty innovative, right? And then we dive even a little deeper, what variety of mushrooms can we use to, emulate that snack, right? Beef jerky. So we chose a variety of cremini mushrooms, portobellos, white buttons. We marinate those. We smoke them with real hickory smoke, which, most, we don't do the liquid smoke, right? So we really go all the way. So, that's kind of the way we look at and apply it. And then sometimes innovation is just trial and error, and in regards to the cosmic carrot chews, we were trying to innovate another type of snack, really. Transparently, we were trying to emulate a ruffled chip, but in carrot form, right? I was trying to do these crinkle cut chips and create this carrot chip. And we had done a couple of good trials, but on one of the shipments that we received carrots that were completely off skew. These crinkle cut thicker carrots like that you would put in soups or something. So we have a strict no food waste policy at in our R&D kitchen. So we said, hey, let's take these, let's try to innovate, see what we can do with it, marinate them, and dehydrate them. And sure enough, we thought it was a failed experiment because we ended up with like these raisin-like carrots. But as soon as we started popping them in our mouths, we're like, oh, wait a second. That's like a raisin. Let's try to dehydrate them less. So it was really a mistake, but then it turned into innovation. So you find innovation in the weirdest places. So for me, you just have to keep your eyes open and just be able to be inspired and at the right moment. So
well, and it seems like chefs, given your background and given all the things that a chef is looking to do of not having waste. It's kind of the way, it seems like it's the way you're wired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of the plant-based, I see across all the things that you do, which is a pretty diverse range of things in restaurants and menus and everything else. And so we're writing so much now about plant-based, and I was just kind of curious about how you came into the space, what you thought about its growth, where it is now, and where it can go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say I was early on one of the naysayers of the vegetable and vegan movement, and I was one of those chefs that kind of was running New York City restaurants. I was like, oh no, not a vegan. So I was I had these blinders on to what that space can actually provide, in our food system. And now, later on in life, you start to learn about climate change and things of that sort. And you're like, oh, wow, how naive I was. But, my wife is vegan actually and vegetarian. I met her, and she kind of introduced me to the space. Still, I was very kind of hesitant about it. I met Seth on a panel, at GW about food policy. I'd been messing in the space a little bit and learning and trying to contribute. And we ended up on this panel, and typical Seth brought some Honest Tea and Beyond Meat burgers in a cooler and slipped them to me. He's like, hey, so he didn't know that my wife Cody was vegan, and I took them back home and we cooked them up, and my mind was kind of blown on how well the product. So for me, it's the innovation of the plant-based space that caught me by surprise. And then led me to just kind of go on this massive deep dive on like what's possible. And for a chef, it's kind of exciting because, I was in my space doing the food I was doing for so long. And then just imagine, like, as an artist, like if someone just introduced a completely new palette of colors that you had never seen in your life before. And you're like, oh, wait a second, so that's kind of how I went in it. And like, listen, the space moves fast. I think we're, one of the things I like to always tell people we're experiencing a massive shift in our food system from what we grow and how we grow it, how we distribute it, what we eat. All the trends. So it's pretty exciting. It's definitely the renaissance of plants and fungi, so
Yeah. And are you thinking about, so you mentioned climate change. Are you thinking about sustainability? And that's kind of a term now that's something else that we write about all the time, and something that you didn't, that we didn't used to talk about, a few years back. Has your thinking, to me, a chef is connected to the farmer, and you're wired to farming and the land and everything else. But as you're thinking about sustainability, it changed and evolved?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I've been learning about sustainability and widening my thought process on sustainability even more as I learn more about how everything works, I think chefs are really well poised, obviously, one, to kind of promote sustainable farming practices, because we do have a great connection with the farmers just naturally, right? That's kind of what we do. And there's a little bit of a, redoing and undoing of food. My co-founder Seth says this really, really well. And I always love to kind of repeat it, because yeah, the redoing of it is, there's a lot of processed foods out in the world, and the fact is that we rely on that. I mean, there's so many humans on this planet, we have to rely on that. So if we could redo that process and that's better for the planet, I think that's a massive dent and looking at climate change through the lens of food, right?
Right.
Because it really does affect it. So I love when he says that. So and then the redoing of food, that's the redoing, and the undoing of food is getting back to basics, right? Just where we used to be a culture of small town farmers and resourcing ingredients not too far away from each other, and supporting those things. We're seeing a lot more farmers markets populate and get a lot more interesting, and going back to whole foods, going back to local foods, not all the way, but really trying to balance out those scales is what it's all about. I'm not the guy that promotes we have to go away all, just completely back to this, right? I understand there's a massive necessity and need and gap that we have to fill in our food system very fast. And that will always be there. But I think, promoting young farmers and promotive regenerative farming, local sourcing, and just getting that education out there and those learnings out there, I think that will be able to make a massive dent, So.
Yeah. So you mentioned meeting Seth on a panel and then him slipping you some product kind of under the table to take home. How did that, so from there, how did that friendship become a business relationship?
Yeah, great question. Well, I had known about Honest Tea, the brand. Obviously I was a fan of it. And I always thought it was really brilliant. His slogan, just a tad sweet, just like encompassed everything about the brand. And I was a big fan, but I did get caught on a very busy week, and I didn't realize I was going on to a panel with Seth Goldman until I actually really got there. So I was, somewhat even a little nervous. I was like, oh no, wow, I'm so unprepared, but he was just such a, easygoing guy and open and so approachable and again brought me Honest Tea and Beyond Meats, and he kind of just really impressed upon me on how it should be done, so I just emailed him really the next day because my wife and I ate the burgers. We thought they were amazing. We had a bunch of laughs because for me it was really my first ever plant-based burgers that I was like, oh, whoa, it bleeds, it cooks, it tastes. It's the thing. So, and I'm always looking for, innovation in my life and how I can partake. So I just emailed him and I said, hey, Seth, you're really onto something. Take it from a burger guy that, has won burger competitions. This is a pretty incredible product. Basically, let me know how I can help, or and we soon just started, developing a relationship, going back and forth. I started doing some promotional videos, some content videos for Beyond Meat, making burgers look good and cooking them. And I launched the Beyond Sausage as well when it came to market in Whole Foods. I kind of got to present that, and along the way, I was kind of chipping at Seth. I was like, listen, this is great product, but I'm in the restaurant business. I have this idea of a plant-based fast food restaurant, but I don't want it to be positioned for vegans or vegetarians. I just want it to be delicious, fast food, all the things, bells and whistles. This happens to be, and that's kind of when he, told me a little bit about his strategy of being in the meat aisle instead of the vegan and vegetarian aisle with Beyond Meat in supermarkets, which I was like, oh, that's a brilliant move, So, he was busy growing Beyond Meat at the time. So he was kind of, fending me off a little bit, but really kind of interested. And there came a point where he was ready to move on from Honest Tea. And he was ready to step down to chair of the board of Beyond, and take a different role there. And, they obviously went IPO and originally it was really Julie, his wife, that had got involved with Plant Burger and launched the first one, because he was still kind of obviously tied up and busy with what he was doing. But as soon as, he released the reins a little bit, we went for it. We also called Jonah Goldman, which at that time, his son was in Israel for about 3 years. He had been living out there. And he was very passionate about the space, a huge inspiration to the family about veganism and animal cruelty. I don't know if you've met Jonah, but he's he's the epitome of this movement. But he decided to come down and launch Plant Burger. So it became very much a family affair and was a lot of fun. And he kind of is responsible for, a lot. But one of the things that stood out was the slogan that Jonah came up with was just eat the change you wish to see.
Right.
You wish to see in the world. And we thought that was so appropriate for Plant Burger. But Seth got really inspired and wanted to get back to startup mode. And he loved the slogan for a CPG company. So eat the change was born, the sister company of Plant Burger. And then he kind of reached out and he's like, listen, I have this idea of, I want to do Whole Foods. I want, this company to meet the intersection of snackification, eco-anxiety, and the plant-based movement. And I want to give you the most ultimate Top Chef challenge. You can't use all the ingredients you use to make food delicious. So, but really that describes our relationship. It's been really playful, a lot of fun, very family oriented, and just trying to do a mix, a good breath of advocacy with deliciousness. So, that's kind of the gig.
And so Whole Foods, so not a lot of, I mean, just like you've done with carrots and what you've done with mushrooms, not a lot of ingredients.
No, very, very clean label, very, very limited ingredients, everything always organic, no soy at all in any of the products. So yeah, I mean, I've learned so much over the course of that, like using, pomegranate molasses or black garlic for flavors or different umamis to get like the teriyakis, right? Like the teriyaki flavors and the agaves of the world, or using, concentrates to impart sweetness over refined sugar. And, there's cool stuff out there. There's 595,000 other ingredients to use apart from the 6 that are responsible for most of our food production. So,
and so mushroom jerky I saw was like in May 2021, and then Cosmic Carrot Chews just came out this past March, right around Net Expo. And as you mentioned, that was just kind of you, kind of riffing from the kitchen and kind of being spontaneous. Yeah. So what do you think about CPG product development now, and what where do you go next, or what are your thoughts about?
Interesting. Such an interesting world to me. We're lucky because our home offices in Bethesda used to be the Honest Tea offices, and we took those over, and there's a fabulous, like, nice little R&D kitchen in there. So we are innovating all the time in our office. We try to have a breadth of delicious snacks on our tables at all times for everybody to eat. But the development of CPG is, there's a couple levers that are interesting, right? Like, one, you have to make sure the supply is there. So when you're innovating, you're innovating with in mind, like, what your, ethos is, right? Like, we want to only resource ingredients in the United States, or, we want everything to be organic, right? So, you have to think about price point at the same time, right? So there's a lot of innovation that I want to do that the market isn't there yet for me to be able to tackle those things. There's like really fun, interesting products that we've developed that, like, we just can't hit the market yet, but we keep developing them, and we keep doing them, and there will be a point. So it's interesting how it all plays out. Mushrooms and carrots, we were really lucky. They just happen to be two of the most, if not the 2 most sustainable and water efficient crops to grow because of their water usage. So for us, that was fantastic. Mushrooms just happen to be so magical in so many different ways that they're, for a chef, they're very, you can be really creative with them. And the carrots are going to be huge. They're they really fill a necessity in like the market right now. So, some of these products get, one of my favorite things to do with Seth now is just to walk the Whole Foods or walk the Giants or walk the Stop and Shops, right? You've never walked a grocery store if you haven't walked it with Seth Goldman before, and I guarantee you it's a thing. But so the interesting story, with Honest Tea that I learned along the way is that Honest Kids was a huge differentiator for them, right? When they hit that, when that hit the market, there's like these before and after shots of the shelves, and the befores were like the Welch's and the Kool-Aid drinks. They were full of sugar. And, if you look at a snapshot these days, you'll see Honest Tea makes up a lot of that shelf space. And that's for a reason, because they came in here with like a mission and had a clear statement of like what's different from everything else and this drink, right? And it was a less sugar. And so, when you look at the fruit snack category now, right? If you take a walk there, literally you could look at it, it's Gushers, and Annie's fruit snacks, and listen, all things I grew up eating a little bit here and there, and everything in moderation. But the fact is, if you look at the shelf, unfortunately, there's no fruit there. It's the fruit snack category. On top of it, it's just like very empty calories, and there's no real benefit from those snacks. So Cosmic Carrot Juice comes in, and I feel like it just offers an opportunity, to purchase something that is that same eating occasion, right? It's in the lunchbox, right? Or it's, the car, the quick snack. But it's also like a chew, and it's a whole food chew, and there's actually nutrition behind it. For us, it's fun because carrots actually that are slightly cooked are more nutritionally available for us, our bodies, than raw carrots. Right. So in a way, you get more nutrition out of our carrots, which I feel is really cool. And the way we were able to work it, if one of the pouches, you actually is one whole serving of carrots, because it's after it's dehydrated.
Oh, wow.
So that's another cool little fact. So we always tell people, parents, you can be a lunchbox hero if you put Cosmic Carrot Juice in the lunchbox, right? But that's also what goes, I've learned now that you have to have that view when you're doing develop. You can't just, you can just, develop and create delicious snacks, but you should have some of those ideas in mind before you do so.
So is it hard? I guess this is on a personal level. Is it hard now that you're starting to wear a CPG hat? Because you're so active. Is it hard figuring out when and how that fits into your schedule, or is it starting to flesh out and become natural?
Well, I have the best mentor. So it's definitely, best co-founder, business partner, mentor. It's definitely, it's definitely a pleasure working with Seth on this. I feel very lucky. It's not, I'm wearing a chef hat still, just in CPG world, so it's very interesting. It's a lot inspiring. And then we're lucky, we run Plant Burger and Eat the Change out of the same office. So I'm able to kind of be, wearing those two hats, and it works quite well. I'm in the office when I can be in most days. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment. It's but especially I have to tell you, two startups launched in the midst of a pandemic, basically. Exactly. Came with their challenges, and I very quickly became a road trip warrior, and went to parts of the world I had never been. Parts of the United States I've never been to. And just kind of even was able to kind of see that whole other side of it, like the co-packing world, which I'm sure that could be a whole other podcast. Is a interesting whole thing.
Okay, so for the record, if you so we'll be seeing you in person again in September. So if you have any samples, any brand new things that you want to try out on an audience, or at least just me and my boss.
Great.
We totally love that.
I might bring you some treats.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
All right. So like a preview of what might be 2023.
Yeah.
That's all the time that we have for today's talk. I hope our viewers and listeners have enjoyed this as much as I have. And I invite everyone to come and meet Chef Spike in person at Prepared Foods New Products Conference this September in Philadelphia. To learn more about that event, please visit preparedfoods.com/new-products-conference. Thanks again, Chef, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.